everyone. It's Jean from the Inky Owl Studio. Welcome. I'm so happy you stopped by today. I welcome you if you're a new subscriber, and welcome back if you're returning. I am making a little gift that I want to give somebody, and they're not necessarily a journaler per se. So I'm going to use the concept that we journalers use for making a folio, and I'm going to make a little photo album from it. So these little photo albums I think are really cute for Happy Mail or for a stocking stuffer, or you just want to give a nice little thank you gift to somebody. Most everyone has photos they'd like to keep track of, so this will be a Christmas orientated themed little photo album. It does require one file folder, and the nice thing is you don't have to use the heavy duties, and even though this is what I have, you can use a regular file folder. Again, the ones from Dollar Store are questionable. I think they might be just a little too thin. They make fantastic tags, but tag bases, but I don't know if it would really hold up well when you put a lot of creases in them. So yeah, just a regular file folder is really all you need, and it doesn't really matter if well, I suppose the ones in the middle probably are a little more difficult, but the ones on the two ends might be the best, but I think you can probably use any of the tabs. And so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to open it up this way. So you've got the seam running vertically up and down here, and the now I'm going to be making some score lines in here. I'm going to be using a scoreboard. However, if you don't have a scoreboard, there's other things that you can do. You can use a ruler and like a stylus, and the stylus is one of these little guys that have a little dull point to them, and you can use that and go down 2 or 3 times to get your score line in. And in a pinch, you can use a knife that, like a dinner knife that has a dull side. You don't want to use the serrated edge, but if you use like the dull side, you can also at least get something going. It will not be a crisp score line, but it'll be enough of a one to give you an idea of where to do your folding, and you can encourage the fold that way. So in a pinch, that would work. It does work pretty good. So I'll get my scoreboard out here, and so I've loaded this up with, of course, the fold vertical, and I have put it up to the tab here on the left side. And the first one is going to be at 3 3/4. So that'll be my first score line, and I'm going to be making that all the way down a couple of times, and then I'm going to go over just 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, really close to that second one there, just 1/8 of an inch, just a little bit. Now I'm going to get to the middle, and now this is the natural fold line, and on my file folder it is 8.5 inches, so that's the natural one. But I'm going to go to the next one. Now if you'll see, there's some pre-made ridges already put into the file folder. I'm going to go to the very next one there on the left side, and that's the place I'm going to be putting in. I'm going to put a score line in there, even though there is one already there, but it just sort of like will encourage it to make that fold. Now we need to put a score line over here on this side, but of course the board's too narrow, so I am going to put the seam right up here to the back to the 0. This score line is going to be at 4 3/4, right down here like so, and that's 4 3/4 from the natural fold. So if you're using a ruler instead of a scoreboard, that's where you'll want to measure your 4 3/4. And then just an 1/8 of an inch over again. And put in a tiny little spine. Alrighty. So now we have to put in a score line that comes all the way across here through the length and the bottom of the file folder. And to do it doubled up is sometimes more difficult, so I'm just going to lay it out with just one layer down. The fold is horizontal down here below. And at this point, I am going to score at 5 inches. It will be my score line, and I'm going to bring it down as far as I can. So it's 5 inches from that edge on down, and then I will turn it this way. Okay, and continue with that 5 inches to meet that score line right there. Even though oops, I think I was off just a little bit there. Shoot. Okay, just a little bit off there. Even though we're sort of scoring the opposite direction, it'll be okay. There we go. So you just want to flip it over to meet it. So now you've got your score line through here and your ones that are running down there. So now we're going to be folding up our file folder. Let me look at my pattern here really fast. So we're going to actually fold it kind of in an intuitively opposite way. So here is the natural fold of the file folder. I am putting the tab over here on the left side, and this is the the place where it goes down and comes up. I mean, it is a tab, but it's the long tab. So I'm putting the short tab here on the left side. And I'm going to fold to the end towards the natural fold line, but I'm folding it the opposite way. So let me do that again. So this is the way your file folder naturally wants to fold. I am opening it up with the short tab on the left and the long tab on the right. And now I'm going to fold in towards the middle from that direction. I mean, if you get it wrong, it's okay, because it'll fold back the other opposite way as well. So, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold it up and burnish my edges. Now, doing these little tiny folds on a heavy-duty file folder does take a little bit more coaxing and a little bit more work. So if you have one, you may have to just kind of pinch it in a couple of places along that edge. Your regular ones won't be quite this stubborn, but it is a little bit more challenging with the heavy duties. But you can do it. All right, so I am going to finish up folding these vertical ones, and I'll be right back. All right, I have my side ones folded in, and remember, you have to kind of fold the opposite way. You may have to re-burnish that natural fold line again to fold it the opposite way. All right, now we're going to fold up this big long one at the bottom. I should have done that before, I'm sorry, but anyways, I'm just going to burnish that down, and we're going to burnish it up. Now that we have it done like so, we're going to turn it around so that bottom is now, these are going to become flaps over our project. And let me give you a sneak peek of one that is finished. Let's see, what did I do here? Here's the one that's finished. So you can see that these here are going to become the flaps that come down on your album, and then we're going to be putting other flaps in, but that's just to kind of give you an idea of, you know, how it's going to fold up. So we got these top ones here that we have to now cut apart, and we're going to be cutting, let me make sure I look at my pattern again, I get the right ones. We're going to be cutting, this one here is going to be a flap. We're going to save this one, and we're going to save this one, and we're going to cut away this one and cut off and away that one. Now you're going to save these because you're going to use them again. And what we want to do is when we cut them, we want to make sure that we cut them just a little bit on the inside of those score lines, so that when it comes down, let me show you, so that when it flaps down, it will not impede the fold lines a little bit. So there's, you can see between the fold line here and the flap, there's just a little bit more that we've gone over, about another 1/8 of an inch there. And what helps, oops, here's a ruler. What helps me is to draw a line with a ruler, and we're going to cut up to this area, right, this fold over line here. So now to reiterate, well, okay, it doesn't really matter how you've orientated it. You just want to make sure that this is the larger portion that we're going to save. So you can see how this is larger than this portion. So the portion we're cutting away is the one that has a smaller smaller part to the fold, and we're keeping this part down here as the base for the album. Okay, I hope I'm explaining this well. Sometimes it's in my head, I understand it. That's because I've done it, right? It's sometimes hard to translate that. So now, so this is the score line here. Here's the score line that we put in. I am coming over like 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to draw a line right down here to that fold there. And I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to take that score line that's right there, and I'm going to draw another line about 1/8 of an inch inside. So I will want to cut then along where I have just drawn up to that fold, and the same over here. Okay, and so this is going to be our flap, and you can see that it's going to clear the 2 fold lines on each side. And then we're just going to cut right along the score line and cut off this guy right here. So we're going to save it though. All right. And then we want to save this flap here on the end. So I'm just going to make another 1/8 of an inch line. All right, so here's one we cut off. This is the one we're saving, and we're going to cut out this portion. So I'm going to cut right along here. I know I'm twisting this around because I can't cut the other way. All right, there we go, up to the line there. And then we're going to cut off right on the score line this portion right here. Okay, now this is what we've ended up with. All right, we have a flap down here, we have a flap down here, and eventually it's going to fold up like this. Now don't be alarmed if these two are not even. Even mine's off, you know, tiny bit. Because what happens is that sometimes the measurement of different file folders are slightly different. They're not all standard. So, well, they're standard by practicality, I guess, but sometimes they're just off a tiny bit. One company will make it a little bit, you know, 1/8 of an inch wider or longer or something like that nature. So it can be, it may not match exactly. So, but don't be alarmed, and it's still fine. It's still going to work the way you want it to work. I'm going to go ahead and round off these flaps. And you don't have to, of course, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay. All right, this is all right. So here then is the base of our folder, and now we're going to be making some pockets in here. So we have, when we cut off, we have two pieces. We have kind of a large piece and we have a smaller piece. The large piece is going to become a flap that goes like this. All right. And I usually trim off, I trim off some of that extra stuff that's over here, you know, where we did a lot of scoring, that spine. I'm going to trim it off. Just give me a second here. Kind of make a nice even thing. And then over here, I'm going to add another score line. So this is about a 1/2 inch wide, just to give it a good base, because we're going to be, let me show you, we're going to be gluing that down, and we want a base for that. Oh, then we also have to make sure that when we close the flap, well, that's the other thing. That's why I have a measurement here. It says 4 by 4 7/8. We want to make sure that it clears this particular score line. So I'm going to mark it. I'm going to mark it right up about like that. Okay, so okay, I can see that I can cut this off here and then go in 1/2 inch, but it doesn't matter. There you go. So that when we score it here, it'll be well away from that fold line. So that's what that's our goal with that. And I guess I better score it. And so I've scored it here like this, and you can definitely cut that off, that portion there. There still would be enough left over. Yeah, so let's just cut those off. Yeah, that's better. All right, so this part then is going to be glued into here eventually, or I guess we can glue it now. I'm going to round out the edges. Now you have to determine at this point, or I would recommend, if you're going to distress it, this would be a good time to do it before you glue it in. It'd be a lot easier to distress this. So let's go ahead and make this pocket, and then if you need to distress, you can do so. I'm not distressing this particular one. Now this little portion here, I'm going to go ahead and just cut off that little spine that we made. All right. So this pocket is going to come down inside this area here. Okay. And, but I want to make it, not a gusset. I don't know what the term is, but I want to make it so it can hold something bulky. So instead of just gluing it down flat, I'm going to do little score lines about a 1/2 inch down this way and a 1/2 inch that way. Alrighty, I've scored a 1/2 inch on each side. I'm going to come in here and just cut out a little bit of this corner there, a little bit of the bulk. And now this pocket, oops, I think I've got it folded the wrong way. It gets folded like this. Okay. So this pocket then is going to sit right down inside here like so. Okay, and I always try to glue the bottom over the sides so that things will go in and out easier. So this is, we want a little bit of room in this pocket because we're going to put a couple little photo mats in here so that the person can store, you know, 2 or 3, 4 photos or whatever. And that's why you want a little bit of room. So now would be the good time, like I say, to distress, but I'm not distressing. And I'm going to glue everything in. So I will get that done. Well, in retrospect, it'd be better to wait and glue these down after you put down your decorative paper. I still am going to make it work because I'm going to leave a border around it anyways, and so it'll still be fine. But just, you know, you may want to just put down your papers first here and then put your flaps down. Just saying. But anyways, I'm glad I did this so that you can get an idea of how this structure is put together. All right. And so for the closure, if you wanted to, you could put magnets here, right, underneath your decorative paper, or you can just put a tie under the decorative paper on the front and back. You can put a ribbon or whatever to tie it with. So those are just some ideas, and the next time we come back, I'm going to be putting this together, decorating it up and showing you, you know, how I do it with the little plans that I have for it. And I'm using My Porch Prints, a Christmas kit from her. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this wasn't too bad. It's actually, once you put one together, they go together pretty fast. And so we will talk to you later. You have a great and crafty day. Bye.